Welcome, everyone. I am Chris Gore. It is Friday. I hope you're doing well. I'm I'm doing the best I can. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Also, Ben Affleck's new movie, Air, which I can't wait to tell you about. It's playing in preview screenings all across the country, so we'll talk about it. Also, a bunch of other films, 1001, Spinning Gold. Alan Ng is going to be joining us. A Chinese film called Full River Red. I hope we get to all of it. Plus your chat, comments, and questions today. So much to discuss. Alan Ng is waiting in the wings. That's what he's doing. Wait, where is Alan Ng? Where is he? He's I see him right here. Here we go. Let's start.
Hey
man, how's it going?
Good. How do I look? Internet working?
The internet's great. I want to see Alan. Do you
Yes.
feel seen, Alan?
I feel seen.
Yeah, you
Not
definitely...
exactly in Dungeons and Dragons, but
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, we got a lot. Okay,
let's start with the little films first, and then we'll build up.
Yes. There's
Dungeons and
well, let's see who's here. Okay. There's because when we start the show, there's currently 77 people watching, which is great. 77 to me is a lucky number. It's a lucky number. It's double sevens. It's the year that the original Star Wars was released, and I was alive then and saw it in first run, which is crazy.
So did I.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. But here you go. Here, Solomon Thornton says, finally, Film Threat is back on Friday. That's right, Solomon. Shucksy, Chris was absolutely smashed last night. Well, that's not true. I'll tell you what I was doing. I felt a little guilty. I was trolling Eric Weber in his chat. Eric, here's the thing, and I know he'll never see this because he never watches our show. He doesn't watch Film Threat, and I tell him, I'm like, you need to watch other YouTubers to just maybe like, not like you're going to do what they do, but like you just see how other YouTubers do it, and then you kind of find what's right for you, and then you do your own vision of a show, but it helps to watch other YouTubers. I say you got to watch like Nerdrotic. You got to watch FNT. You got to watch John Campea. You should watch Robert Meyer Burnett. Just watch how those other YouTubers do shows. Watch Retro Nerd Girl. Watch. There's so many good ones out there. Just watch how they do shows. And Eric's like, no, I don't want to do it. So I know he's never going to see this. The problem is Eric takes himself so seriously that he feels his opinion is the one and only right opinion, and no one should think differently. And so that's such a person that takes themselves that seriously is super fun to make fun of. So I make fun of Eric in the chat. Shucksy, I was not smashed, but I was trolling Eric. So one of my favorite things to do is just say sound, no audio, sound, and then everyone else does it, and then Eric has to stop and
oh, you guys.
I know it's cruel.
That's me.
David Glenn says, morning, everyone. My kingdom for a film. Woo! It's Film Threat time. Subtle deviancy is here. Damn straight imperfect. John Manilang. John, good to see you here. Good morning, everyone. David Glenn, I see Alan. I
feel seen.
And Mike MC Wong, I hate the music in Full River Red. Actually, the music that's sort of in between music, not the orchestral music, is something I like. We may or may not get to Full River Red. We might have to, because
I have the screener for it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, how'd you get the screener?
I asked for it. They sent it to me.
Who? Well,
I got this actually weeks ago, and it's still active on my account.
All right. Well,
I got the screener again too, so I may avoid the trek to Santa Monica and see it at home.
Ah, well, there you go. All right. Well, let's launch right in We're gonna start doing this where we just launch into a review. We're not gonna get super chatty. I am gonna talk about one quick thing though. One quick thing is that Attack of the Dock is screening Friday. You have asked me relentlessly, when is Attack of the Dock coming out? 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 I'll tell you when it's coming out. Friday, April 21st at the Frida Cinema in Santa Ana, California. You can get tickets now. Go to thefridacinema.org. The link is in the description for this episode. There are 2 screenings. We may add a 3rd screening, but please get your tickets now. This is one of the few times you will get to see Attack of the Dock in a theater. There's going to be a step and repeat. They're selling booze in the lobby. There's going to be an after party at a rooftop bar, which I'll only tell you about if you attend the screening. And I'll tell you during the Q&A that will be moderated by Alan Ng. Get your Attack of the Dock tickets. I'm telling you, we're close to selling out the 8:00 screening. So,
wow.
So get the tickets. It's going to be packed. And then that's it. That's it. Just go see it. And then you will be able to purchase the film, either rent. I think it's like $3.99 to rent the movie. Okay. Don't go looking on some pirate website. Just rent the movie for $4, or you can buy it. You can watch it multiple times. So there you go.
I think we can call this an official Film Threat meetup.
Yeah, yes, this is an unofficial Film Threat meetup.
No, this is an official one.
Okay, yes, it's an official Film Threat.
If you and I are there, it's official.
Okay, good. If you and I are together, yes, it's an official meetup. So join us at the Film Threat meetup, where we will also show Attack of the Dock. Tickets are now on sale, and it's like a normal movie ticket price. It's like $15. Okay.
Yeah. And if you're worried, there is parking. There's structured parking nearby within walking distance.
People are asking me because they're coming in from out of town, what hotel to stay at. Can I give you the hotel recommendation?
Okay, what is it?
Don't stay in Santa Ana. I don't think it's a big hotel vacation. However, Anaheim is very close to Santa Ana. My recommendation is stay somewhere at a nice hotel in Anaheim and then come to Santa Ana. Although if someone finds like a hotel that's in Santa Ana, let me know about it. But I actually don't know about any hotels.
Yeah, I mean, the Orange County is fairly well connected. So if you go Costa Mesa, Irvine, Tustin, you can find some nice hotels. Orange even has some nice hotels that are within 10 to 15 minutes from the theater.
Yeah, and that area is super walkable. There's like all these like bars, restaurants.
Yeah, and they fixed the road, by the way.
They fixed the road. It's like a cool little downtown area. So it's like people are asking me, well, where should I? It's like there's tons of stuff to do. Just get in the area. You're going to see the marquee on the theater. That's where we'll all be. I'm going to get there early. I also have like a really cool thing that's going to be a giveaway. We're doing a limited edition special Attack of the Dock poster, which will be given away to everyone who comes to the screening. It's not the poster design you're seeing here. It's a different, we had like 4 other poster designs done, and we're doing a limited edition only for people who attend this screening. It's going to be, it's so cool. It's so cool. I can't wait for y'all to see it. So there you are. Come to the show. Awesome. All right. Let's launch right into it. Alan, you saw a film called Spinning Gold.
Yeah.
Which I keep seeing the trailers for, and I want to know, I've seen the trailers for Spinning Gold. I want to know how this movie is. It looks good. Period piece. It's, set in like the 70s. It's the rise of what's the record company?
Casablanca
Records, which I remember that logo, and launched a ton of incredible acts. Yes. Tell us about Spinning Gold.
Okay, so Spinning Gold is the story of Neil Bogart, who is the founder of Casablanca Records. Uh, he's this entertainer who realizes early in his life that he's not going to make it as an entertainer, and he decides to that he realizes he has this eye for talent. He's able to spot talent and not only spot talent, but really bring something special to their music. And so on the East Coast, he's working with Buddha Records, and he's hooked up with the likes of the Isley Brothers. He Isley Brothers were a great group, but they were not, they were kind of blackballed by Motown Records, and so Bogart takes them in and makes them big stars. Gladys Knight is the same thing. She's kind of on the tail end of her career when she meets Bogart, and Bogart says that she needs to leave her current record label, come to him, and they work on the song called "Midnight Train to Houston," and Gladys Knight says no, we're changing that to Georgia, and so he produces that massive hit for her, and then realizing that he feels like he can go out on his own, he decides he's going to go to L.A. And in LA, he creates Casablanca Records, and quickly, and he has two acts basically that he's trying to promote once he's in LA: Kiss and Donna Summer, and for some reason, the magic that he had on the East Coast, he couldn't translate it to the West Coast, and he wound up going about $7 million in debt, and so that's kind of the story of that latter half of how he was able to kind of turn things around, how he was able to make Kiss and Donna Summer a star, and but this movie is written, directed by his son Timothy. The score is done by his son Evan. This is kind of an homage to their father. The way he's portrayed in the movie is he's this really optimistic. He believes in people. He believes in people so much that he's willing to go not only $7 million in debt, but debt into the mob. He almost gets killed at one point for not coming through, or for basically kind of treading into the territories of the other record companies. So I'll say this. A lot of great music in it. The actors sing the music, so they're not as great as the originals. Like the guys who play Kiss, okay, they're not Kiss. To me, and I saw this with Mike MC Wong, we had a good time, and I think we had a good time only because this is our era of music. I grew up in the 70s, early 80s. And so that was my music. And so this was a very nostalgic piece to me. I'm just not convinced that this movie is going to bring in a broader audience. It's very specific to that time. And so I had a good time. I'm not sure my daughter would have a good time. The music's fine. And it falls into that biopic trope where, you're just hitting the big moments of a person's life. There's kind of this common theme where Jeremy Jordan, who plays Neil Bogart, he narrates his story. He breaks the fourth wall. He speaks to the camera. He even sings at times. If you know Jeremy Jordan, he can sing. So I had fun, but I don't know that I would kind of be very specific as to who I would tell to go see this movie.
So is it a mild recommendation, or
very mild recommendation?
Oh, well, so that's
which is going to be a theme for the rest of today.
Well, it seems like you didn't like. Well, I saw a movie that I hear what you're saying, because I saw a movie that I felt very similarly. I could literally exchange the title; would almost be a similar review. Mm-hmm. I saw a movie. We're going to talk about it because it doesn't come out for a while. Called BlackBerry, and it's about the making of the BlackBerry.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know about like the BlackBerry phone, and they were manufactured in Canada. It was created by Canadian engineers. It became popular. It was once 54% of the market of mobile phones. They called it the Crackberry, because it had the keyboard. And then it's what killed the BlackBerry. Well, the iPhone. But it goes into it, and it's interesting. You meet all the people behind it, but it doesn't go into any depth in their story. Everyone's really one note. And then I always wonder, well, what's the theme? right? Like with these movies, it's like, and there's a lot of movies that seem similar in this. There's a movie called Pinball that's coming out about the guy who, when pinball machines were illegal in New York in the 70s, for some reason, they associated it with gambling. So there were no pinball machines in the city of New York. And they fought back against this to bring back pinball machines.
Yeah.
There's Tetris is coming out with Taron Egerton. There's another.
Well, I mean, I think what you're bringing up is the fact that I feel like a lot of these biopics that are coming out, they're being done for posterity's sake. I feel because the Suns were behind Spinning Gold, because Bogart died in like 1983, that this was kind of their way of giving honor to their father, who made a huge impact on the music industry in the early 80s, late 70s. And a lot of these films, you feel like, it's there just because this is the only way their history and their story is going to get out, and so it's there for posterity.
Yeah, it's I kind of felt that way. It's like they're trying to preserve the memory, but then also it's sort of like for history's sake, like sort of, like here's this story. But in order for something like this to work, because I saw a movie that's similar but did it great, which you should go see tomorrow. We'll talk about it after Dungeons and Dragons, where it's like they're leaning into nostalgia, but what is the theme? I mean, look, like with Attack of the Dock, right? I'm not like bringing it like only because it's like I didn't just want to make a documentary about Attack the Show. I want to like say things about the culture.
Yeah.
I wanted to weave in some themes, and I feel like what I felt about this Blackberry movie, it's like, well, what they were successful and then they weren't successful, but what does
it's a dramatic documentary, basically.
yeah. It's like you have to. Yeah, I mean, what are you saying by making this? It's not just the.
For this movie, Bogart was a guy who was optimistic. He believed in everybody, and he believed in them so much. He believed in his idea and concept so much that he was willing to, again, go $7 million in debt and not really have a way of getting out of it until he figured it out. But that's very buried in the movie, and it only comes out in his personality, as opposed to. You're kind of looking for those moments where it's kind of brought up and it's there, but it's just not done in a way that you kind of want it to come out more cinematic. I hate to use that word, but it's true.
Yeah, it looked I've seen the trailer and I'm like, I love all this music. This is an interesting era. Why do I care? What are the characters and the story, the themes? How can I have seen 10 seconds of a trailer in my life where I have to see this. The story that I'm immediately engaged. And I've seen a bunch of these nostalgic movies. I haven't seen Tetris yet. I've seen Blackberry. I've seen a couple of others. And it has to be more than nostalgia. Yeah. It has to be saying something else. There has to be not that there has to be a message, but there has to be a theme or a thread or something meaningful, rather than just here's nostalgia. There's got to be more than that. So it sounds like your recommendation is mixed. This looks like a streaming movie is what it looks like.
It is. And I Chris, you grew up in that era, so I would say, you'd probably like it a lot more than most people would. Kiss. I mean, it's amazing that Kiss was one of the first acts. The song Beth is about Bogart's first wife. Yeah. And again, it's nostalgic, it's history. I found it interesting, and now I'll move on to the next one.
All right. Well, let's go to your comments and questions. We do have some comments here that are unrelated that I actually think are really are insightful. Let's see. Sassy77 says, yes, Forever is our song, and striking up a conversation about Kiss is what finally got me to have a conversation with my hubby. I wouldn't give him the time of day until then. Well, I love that story. I think that's incredibly romantic. Also, it's nice to know that women watch our show. I do know women do watch our show, but primarily our audience is men. But thank you for that. Is really great. And also, we could use more music today that connects people. I mean, like, where are Do they even make romantic songs now, or is it all songs like WAP? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
something like I don't look.
It's songs about romance versus songs about sex.
Right,
That's
exactly. What I'm saying is I would defend that, songs like WAP should exist, right? Like that's fine. Having said that, can we balance it out with other stuff? We so yes, but that's great, Sassy77. Eric Stratton for 777. I guess that's the theme today. BlackBerry derived from Palm Pilot. Inventor carried around a block of wood in shirt pocket every time he needed data. He documented it on that wood. Yeah, it's look, I won't say that I completely didn't enjoy BlackBerry, but we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it when it
comes out,
closer to release. So I saw an early screener. So there you go. The movie was at South by Southwest. Maybe do we have a review on the website?
No. We sort of avoided the big studio films.
We should have seen those movies.
I know. Yeah, we could talk about South by Southwest.
Patrick Lemire, Spinning Gold looks good. Kiss being the tools they are. I am a fan. Wouldn't let the filmmakers use the correct Kiss makeup. Oh, is that true?
Oh, I don't know about that.
Here, okay, I can see that because it's trademarked.
Oh, probably.
So they used makeup, but it wasn't on model.
I mean, they used music. They sung the music. Although they re-recorded, they recorded themselves. That they used a lot of music in this one.
Cool. Kiss was my first concert in 1999 farewell tour. Oh my God. 1990. Yeah.
I think someone asked a question about where does it end? And it kind of ends where Bogart figures out how to promote Kiss and how to promote Donna Summer.
Yeah, and, when does the Spinning Gold story end?
Yeah, and it literally it ends at the point where he sells 49% of the company to Polygram.
Yeah,
and he's able to pay off his partners, including they're played by Jay Farrow, Peyton List, and Dan Fogler. And so when he, that's kind of when the movie ends.
Mike MC Wong says loved Spinning Gold.
Yeah.
All right, so
he really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Good, cool. So there you go. Let's see some other comments here.
What's next?
What's the next beeper? The movie? Yeah. Oh my God! No, I do think. Okay, Patrick, I do think they are kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel on these movies. We've got a movie about the guy who sold Tetris, the guy who made the BlackBerry, the guy who got pinball machines legalized in the state of New York. It's weird how are these really? And also when I look at something like this, I think to myself, my first thought is if you're going to make a movie about a historical event, which would be a better way to tell this story? Is it in a documentary, or is it in the form of a narrative film? Sometimes it's both, but that's I look at that. It's like a lot of times I look at a thing and I say, but would have made a better documentary. So there you go. And Subtle Deviancy says, I smacked that like button harder than Gore smacks down Ant-Man will make bank Weber. A couple of comments about Eric Weber here. Superhero movies are the best movies. I saw you in the chat last night. I love Eric Weber, but he gets so many things completely wrong, such as Scream 6 and Thor 4 and Ant-Man 3 and a lot of others. Eric is a normie. He is a normie. He is not a geek. He's not a superhero movie guy. He's not even a science fiction movie guy. He's not a genre movie guy. He is you know what he likes? Oscar movies. He likes Oscar movies.
Oh yeah.
He loved women talking. So, and Patrick Lemire says, Eric is like Gary with RRR, except for other YouTubers. Yeah. And
Gary says he'll watch it, but he never will. You just know he never will.
And then
I will say this about Eric. He's his forte is the box office, and he'll tell you he's pretty good at telling you why a movie failed and why a movie succeeded.
Yeah, box office wise. Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty spot on.
Yeah. And then Imperfect says, will Attack of the Doc be available at my local Blockbuster Video? Here's what I'm gonna do. There is a Blockbuster Video in, I believe, is it
Oregon?
Washington?
Oh, Washington, yeah.
Washington. I am going to mail a copy of the Blu-ray because I know the owner. I'm going to mail a copy of the Blu-ray to the owner so that Film Threat, the Attack of the Doc will be available at Blockbuster Video. I'm just going to send copies there. Serious.
That'd be awesome.
And Subtle Devens, he says, I will gladly pay my $3.99 to keep Gore in quality hair products and fully condone giving Weber grief. Good. I will say my hair products are pretty, it's just, okay, this was advice from the guy who's been cutting my hair for 20 years. He says, just get cheap shaving cream and put it in your hair because it just gives it something. And then the other thing that makes my hair good is sleeping on, I just sleep and I wake up.
Yeah.
I sleep on, I'll go to sleep on what they call a wet head, right? I'll take a shower, go to bed, wake up, and it looks like this. So there you go. And yeah. And then all common error says, it looks like Chris is wearing a bomber vest. Maybe you can't see this, but it says right here, Doc Crew. Can you see on this side? Doc Crew. And then look at this patch on this side. Do you see that? Do you see it? Can it make me full screen, Alan? There you go. See?
Got it.
So that's not full screen. Here, this is full screen right here. Right.
Oh.
Full screen. See there? This is the official Attack of the Doc. I don't know if you can you see that? I'm trying to just okay, whatever. All right. We had crew jackets made. Mm-hmm. We had crew jackets made, and it was one of our Kickstarter. It was one of our Kickstarter rewards, and I made one for myself. So there you go. I think I have 2 left. They're both extra small. The Dog Catcher says the last Blockbuster is in Central Oregon. That's right. We did a watch party with that movie, and the owner of that store was on the watch party. Look up if you want to see the watch party. Just search watch party. The last Blockbuster. The last Blockbuster, I believe, is currently on Netflix, and you can watch the watch party while you watch the movie, which is cool. So, all right. And where's Alan's crew jacket? He didn't work on. Although I will say, Alan did contribute to the Kickstarter. I didn't ask him to. Yeah. He just organically did it.
Yeah, because I wanted to see this documentary made.
Well, I appreciate that. That's awesome. Thanks, man. Hopefully I'll get you your rewards. All right, now it's time that we pivot. How do we? Okay, I know how to do it. I'm going to do it right now. You ready? We're going to pivot. We are going to pivot. I'm slow today, folks. I'm still cold. I still have a cold. It's not as obviously it's not as bad. Whatever. I kind of, I was rough. It was rough earlier this week. I feel a little better, so it's fine. But let's pivot right here.
Oh boy.
Come here, I'm gonna eat you. Get in my belly.
All right, now it's time. It's time for us to talk about Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. Wait, we don't have that right. It's Honor Among Thieves. Is it colon?
It would be colon, I guess. I suppose.
All right. And is it an ampersand? See, I get really anal about that stuff. Are they spelling out the word and, or is it an ampersand? I got it. I fixed it. It's all good. It's all good. All right, there we go. Because also there's a movie, the original Dungeons and Dragons movie is just called Dungeons and Dragons. This is Honor Among Thieves. So
yes. But it is an ampersand and it is a colon.
Okay, cool. All right. Alan, I was in a packed theater in Burbank at the AMC 16 in the Dolby Digital Cinema, one of the best screening experiences in Los Angeles. This screen is so great. The comfy chairs, you can kind of kick back. The seats are heated should you enjoy some additional heat while you're sitting watching your movie. I saw this movie in a packed theater.
I did not.
I thought it was not a great movie, but I also had fun. Alan, tell us about Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
Okay, so if you follow me on social media on Twitter and Instagram, as of yesterday morning, my screening of Dungeons and Dragons, I was still the only person who had a ticket for that movie. Before I went, I checked. There was one other person, so the ticket had doubled. And then when I showed up, 7 people showed up, and they all decided to sit around me.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not. It was just like stop. They were just talking, and so yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. What can we say about Dungeons and Dragons? I had fun.
Well, tell us.
Yeah,
tell
okay.
us a little bit of the story.
Tell a story. You're gonna make me. So here, let me. I just want to get the names right here. So essentially, we have the Master Thief. Let's see. Edgin. I don't even know the names of these characters. Helga was the only name I came away with. But you had Edgin, and I can't even pronounce these things. Played by Chris Pine.
All right, how about you know what? Let's do this. How about I'll do this? Let's just go back to this here.
Yeah. No, but I'll just mention Edgin. It starts with his wife getting fridged, and then you know you're off to a good start.
Look, Dungeons and Dragons is about a team of thieves who are unlikely friends that come together. It focuses on Chris Pine's character. His name is Edgin or Edgin. Excuse me, is Edgin or Edgin? So, anyways,
exactly.
His wife. He loses his wife tragically. And he's telling the story. He raised his daughter, who also was among the band of likable thieves. Michelle Rodriguez plays Holga, who's a warrior. I feel like she's channeling Gina Carano's character from The Mandalorian, right? Cara Dune. She just sort of gives off that vibe. There's also Simon, who is a wizard with his skills might be a little lackluster. There's Doric, who is they give it a different name, but she's effectively a changeling. She can change into a snake or a rat or an owl bear, right? And these unlikely thieves, they come together, and the opening of the movie is Edgin and Holga are in prison. They break prison, and it starts off kind of fun because the way that the story is told is he's telling their story, how they got to prison, and he keeps backing up and telling the story in kind of a funny way because he's waiting for Jarnathan to show up, which is a giant bird-like character, and they use Jarnathan to escape the prison. Then they come to find out that Hugh Grant's character, his character is Forge. He was part of their band. They go to visit him. And Edgin wants to get his daughter back, and Forge is kind of he's loathsome. He's a con man, and he is basically become the adoptive father to Chris Pine's kid, and he is a horrible human being, and they want to expose him and take him down, right? So that's without, I don't want to spoil any of the details. I'll just give you that. There's a character.
Did you mention all the witches and wizards, though?
What's that?
You know, the witches and wizards, they're the ones who are kind of behind Forge's.
Yeah, well, they're behind
power.
Forge. They've kind of uplifted Forge to power, and they're using him because they plan to turn the townspeople into zombies. And all Forge cares about is stealing all the wealth and treasures from the city. So they're on a mission to stop this from happening. This unlikely foursome: Edgin, Doric, Holga, and Simon.
Yeah.
So and you know what? I'm not going to tell you this movie's great. I'm going to say that it's a fun adventure. I'll say, you know what? It's better than Ant-Man 3. Okay? It's entertaining. And there's some things that are very clever. At one point, they have to go interrogate a bunch of dead soldiers who fought in a battle in order to acquire this helmet. They want to find out the location. Where is this helmet that will give Simon the ability to have all these incredible powers as a wizard? But in order to locate the helmet, they gotta find out where it is. It was lost in this battle. So they wake up these soldiers. They can only ask them 4 questions before they die, before they'll like be dead forever. And each one kind of has a piece of the story. It's very funny. I will say this. This is more of a comedy than an action adventure. The comedy, I think, takes center stage. There's a scene where Michelle Rodriguez's character as Holga goes to visit her old lover, played by in a cameo by Bradley Cooper. And Bradley Cooper is this tiny person. So not a hobbit, but he's like in scale about half her size. And it's just played for humor. And then basically he ended up like with a girl that looks just like Holga. So it's like he's
except
women,
bigger.
except maybe even a little bigger. This is funny. In tone, it reminds me of a movie that I loved as a kid. You may be familiar with this film. It's The Sword and the Sorcerer, directed by Albert Pune, starring Lee Horsley. I loved the movie The Sword and the Sorcerer. The thing that was different about Sword and the Sorcerer was a little bit like Indiana Jones in a fantasy world, except it was R-rated, it was incredibly violent and gory, and it had nudity. And I loved that movie. As a kid, I loved The Sword and the Sorcerer. Unfortunately, while Dungeons and Dragons does have the sort of mix of adventure, humor, fantasy elements, it's not, there's no nudity, and it's not gory at all. I would say that this is very family oriented. It's more for kids than anything else. So Alan, what are your before we get, I do have one thing that I thought was really cool. Someone told me this, my friend Paul Salamoff last night. They're like, did you notice all the Easter eggs? And I'm like, well, I didn't. I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons like player. I didn't watch the animated show. There's this maze at the end. I thought the stuff with the maze, like a lot of the adventure aspects, the portal that they had the hither thither stick. I thought the portal thing was kind of cool. The way that they used that to pull off, to do their thieving. It plays into the end of the film. They have this maze that they're going through. There's a bunch of captured people in this maze, in the captured thing. It's all characters from the animated show. So if you watch the animated show, that's like a reference to it. So look for that. I didn't notice that. Yeah. But that's sort of like, look, my expectations for this movie, having seen the trailer too many times, was pretty low. It was fine. Was it great? No. I had a good time. I had a good time watching this film, and I'm not embarrassed by it. But it does remind me of what I think is a better movie, which is The Sword and the Sorcerer. Go watch The Sword and the Sorcerer. That movie is fantastic. It's got pirates, and there's orgies, and there's nudity. Watch Conan, if you want serious, Conan the Barbarian. Okay? It's gory. There's nudity. It's like, look, if you have swords, arms are going to get chopped off. Heads are going to get chopped off. Although there is like a head that does get chopped off in Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves. But it's not particularly gory, right? It's very PG-13, very light, definitely for kids. But Alan, your thoughts?
Yeah. I'll go with Mega YouTube's 99 comment. Movie was mid as fuck. That's kind of how I walked away. I would say if you took my review of Shazam and applied it to this, it would be the exact same thing. I have fun, but what am I walking away with? What is my takeaway? There's nothing in this movie that I particularly remember or cherish coming out of it. I suppose I like the idea that this was a band of misfits who had to kind of rise above themselves to figure out how to win in the end. But then I thought a lot about, I haven't played Dungeons and Dragons since probably 40 years ago, since I was in high school. And, the movie felt very much like that, in the sense of here's a little premise. Here's me and my friends, and we're going to go on this little adventure, and we're just going to go from here to here to here to here until we finally figure out and solve the giant puzzle that is this campaign. And that's kind of how this movie felt. It's just a cast of characters, all with different abilities, different skill levels, different, Dungeons and Dragons, and they're just kind of going from point to point. And and the graphics are amazing. The action was fun. I don't think you could say that Chris Pine was emasculated at all in this movie. And so, but the thing is, the movie is very mediocre. And I just walked away thinking, this movie should have been better than it was. I think what makes this better than Ant-Man is the fact that 60% of it was practical, or 50% of it, I'll say. It's kind of like, and then the other thing that is similar to Ant-Man and Shazam is that there's this world we're in, and I don't exactly know the rules of the world. It's just a world full of characters with powers, with magical powers, with whatever. But what is this world really about? And again, I think Dungeons and Dragons is very much that nature, where you go on a campaign, you're not caring about how the world is set up, who's in charge, who's not, who are the oppressed, who are the oppressors. You're just kind of going in doing this adventure, and that's kind of what this movie is.
Yeah, well, look, here's my sort of final thought on it. It's not a terrible movie. It's better than Shazam 2. It's better than Ant-Man 3. Could you argue that it's mid? Sure. Yep. But when I go to In-N-Out to get a burger, I'm not expecting filet mignon from Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Okay? Ruth's Chris. It's always like a weird thing to say. So my expectation was already low going in the movie, and it was fine. In fact, there are parts that I enjoyed. I think it was clever. I think it was definitely written for comedy. I think the characters are likable. I enjoyed Michelle Rodriguez. I thought she was really good. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's a badass in this film. She's kind of a badass in
every film.
Every film, she's kind of always plays kind of a badass. But and then Chris Pine, people might argue, was Chris Pine emasculated? Not really. He's a bard. He's not a warrior. Okay. Michelle Rodriguez's character, Holga, she's a warrior. That's what she does.
She's the heavy in the film. Yeah. She's the muscle of the crew.
Right. Chris Pine sings songs. Like, he literally is like a bard who's supposed to sing songs, and he's a thief, but he's not a warrior. Okay. Simon is a wizard. Everyone fulfills their role. There is a character. What's his name? I want to make sure I get
Jenk. That one.
Yeah. Jenk. Is it Jenk?
I think so.
Jenk, played by Rej Jean Page. And is he from Bridgerton?
I believe so. Yes. Yeah.
Anyways, his character was hilarious because he's like this ultimate, he does everything right. He's so good. He's like
he's good. A paladin, for crying out loud.
He's like exactly. It's like, I must do everything well. I just do everything great. Nothing phases him. They're in the midst of he's a strong male character, but it's funny because he's so over the top. I thought it was hilarious. So his character was like a good, he plays it completely straight. This is okay. Here, there's a difference between the comedy in Marvel movies as opposed to this, which is why I think that this sort of is better than Shazam 2, Ant-Man 3, all that, is that it seems like the stakes do matter here, right? It seems like the stakes do matter. Like, the characters, at least when they're in it, care about it. What do you mean yes and no?
Yes and no. I mean, the stakes were big, but they kind of solved in very quick and not big stake ways.
Well, look, my expectation. Yeah. My expectations were low, and it was fine. I like. Look, it was fine. Is a movie it's not going to change your life. This movie is not going to change your life. You're not going to walk away from it and think, just it's fine. Let's go to your.
And don't forget the big question. Is it
yes?
No.
Well, 0. I would
0.
say, I mean, does it have? The problem is that people misinterpret, like, it's got all these strong female characters and it's got some male characters that don't act characteristically like badass warriors. I mean, I would disagree. There are many warrior male characters in the film. The other thing I will say about that comment, that emasculation comment, came from the screenwriters who were being interviewed. By the way, no one cares what screenwriters think. It's very, I mean, what's funny is that screenwriters are rarely interviewed in, for films. These days, actually, they get interviewed more often, but they tend to say things that are kind of stupid. So when anyone says something stupid in an interview, I always question it. I always think to myself, it's not as bad as that person is saying. It's going to get blown out of proportion, and people are going to be putting way too much importance on an innocuous comment. It's an innocuous comment, and I guarantee you, knowing the personality of most screenwriters, those screenwriters were trying to pander to the interviewer. 100%. They were trying to pander to the interviewer to get in that person's good graces. So, because most people who are journalists are covering entertainment today are mostly, for the most part, woke. So what they'll do is they'll pander to that, and then something gets blown out of proportion, and then you see the movie and it isn't that at all. So there you go.
Yeah. I think the issue was just the fact that Michelle Rodriguez played the muscle of the group, and quite frankly, she kind of earned that role. You buy into that the same way as if Gina Carano had played that role, and you buy it, and and of course, Chris Pine is not the brute of the team; he's kind of the brains behind the team, right, and I think that's unfortunately that's kind of how the trailers portrayed it, as Chris Pine's character being the weak one, because he was always kind of compared next to Michelle Rodriguez at that point.
Right. So,
but Doric is definitely not the heavy of it. She is kind of the the girl of the group, and is kind of played that way as well.
No, I like the dynamic that they had dated. Simon and Doric had dated, and then he had to level up. Simon had to level up as a wizard to win the girl. Okay, so there you go.
Yeah, women kind of want that in their men.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. All right, let's go to your comments and questions. Subtle Deviancy coming in with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that.
Oops, sorry.
Okay.
I'm trying to start something.
Played D&D all the way back in 1980. They lost a lifetime fan and ticket buyer over WOTC licensing fiasco. Oh, Wizards of the Coast. Yeah. And saying white people no longer welcome. One, I don't know anything about that. I happen to know that they were basically, were they doing Wizards of the Coast? Were they doing like artwork, or was this something else?
It was basically they were trying to enforce some kind of licensing deal, especially for online creators who are playing Dungeons and Dragons online, and found popularity, found ability to make money of it, and then Wizards of the Coast wanted to grab their chunk of their success.
Right. Yeah, I don't like when companies do that. I think you lose your customer base.
Yeah,
I think,
and then they start getting rid of characters that were that could be perceived as racist in origin.
Yeah, it's just it's dumb. It's dumb. But yeah, no. Unfortunately, yeah, that's that will turn people off. I don't blame you for having that opinion. Subtle Deviancy. I don't blame you for feeling that way. Really, when companies go after the lifelong fans, how much money, Subtle Deviancy, how much money would you say you've spent on Dungeons and Dragons over your life? Probably a lot. When you vilify the core fan base, longtime fans, huge mistake. And so I don't blame you for feeling that way. Yeah. And they haven't earned your dollar. As it is, this movie is not going to do. You were in a theater with 6 other people, Alan.
Yeah, I would say definitely under 10.
Right. So I was in a packed theater, although I will say AMC Burbank 16 is sort of a central hub. It's where a lot of people in Los Angeles actually go to see movies these days. So there you go. Raven Fire Phoenix says Alan is great, but he needs to go to review school.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly prepared to describe the plot of this movie.
Yeah, well, whatever, man. Just
Yeah.
The nerd
I'm
far
working
away.
on it. Believe me, I know this is a weakness and I'm working on it.
Okay, the nerd far away. Chris Allen, would you rather watch the movie or play the game? Can I be completely honest? I was in a friend group when I was a kid who loved Dungeons and Dragons, and I tried to play it with them, and I hated it. I was probably about 9 years old, and I thought, this is the dumbest game I've ever played. Now, look, I was 9, okay? I've since changed my opinion. But when I was a kid, I thought that people who played Dungeons and Dragons were idiots because I thought, this is what I remember saying this to my friends. I said, this is kind of dumb. Why don't we just go outside, grab some sticks, pretend they're swords, and then we'll just beat the heck out of each other. It'll be fun.
So you're into LARPing versus
Well, I just thought, like, let's go outside and, like, we'll climb trees, we'll grab sticks, we'll sort of pretend they're swords. And it was like this thing of, like, you've got this card and blah, blah, blah. Now you've entered this. And I just thought, like, let's just go outside and play. Now, I was 9 years old, I was a kid, whatever. But now I get the value of it and that kind of tabletop gaming. I get it. I get the appeal. But when I was a kid, I thought it was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I played in high school. I had, this was back when it was just advanced D&D, AD&D. And I have friends, especially in my improv troupe, who do play Dungeons & Dragons. And I just feel like that if I played today, my improv skills would kick in and I'd just be a complete asshole player to play with. And so I just kind of stayed away from it. Right. I don't think I would take it seriously, as seriously as they need me to take it.
Mike MC Wong says, is Bradley Cooper's half giant girlfriend played by Olivia Colman? Looked like her, kinda. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think that was her.
I don't think Olivia Colman would do a bit part like that. No.
Well, Bradley Cooper did a bit part.
John Mewald says D&D as a game has become pretty gonzo. I don't think it's possible to do a serious Hasbro D&D movie. Fair point.
Yeah. I think if you watch the movie, I think it'll feel like a D&D campaign when you see how the story kind of lays out. And so I think the whole idea of going to a graveyard to interrogate dead people, that feels very D&D, and I think it's played out like as if you were in that situation, how you would play out. I think you'd take it half seriously, and you'd have a dungeon master who would adhere to the strict rules of that spell.
I thought that scene was fun. It was played for most of that kind of stuff. It was played for laughs, but it was organic to the story.
Yeah, and I think it'll resonate with D&D players. I think it'll resonate.
And I love when it cut to the flashbacks of them telling the story of this epic battle and the fight, this helmet and the fate of the helmet. And the one guy like slipped and hit his head and died on the bathtub. That was great. It's fun. Mike MC Wong says, I liked it too. It was surprisingly entertaining. I just think that, like, if your expectations are low. Oh, and by the way, Alan Ing, you wrote a review of The Sword and the Sorcerer.
Yes.
It's on the website. You could just go to filmthreat.com, look up The Sword and the Sorcerer. We've been doing this thing where we occasionally will go back and re-review like classic films.
Yeah, I was kind of challenged to review kind of the body of Albert Pune's work. The first one being Alien from LA. And that was, it was funny because the only way I could watch that movie was watching the Mystery Science Theater lampoon of Alien from LA.
Well, look up Alan's review of The Sword and the Sorcerer. I'm a big fan of Albert Pune. I actually had the opportunity. Okay, this is going to be weird. I co-hosted the DVD commentary for the Australian re-release of The Sword and the Sorcerer film it's in Australia. So an Australian company said, hey, Albert wants to do a DVD commentary, but he wants someone to kind of interview him and host it. Would you do that? So I drove to Marina Del Rey to Albert Pune's offices, saw his amazing office filled with like props and this and whatever. His production office is filled with all this ephemera and memorabilia. We sat down and watched the movie. I recorded it, and then I sent the file to this company in Australia. So if you can track down the Australian DVD release, it's Albert Pune and I having a 2-hour conversation about The Sword and the Sorcerer. And he told me all about what the follow-up movie will be. There was supposed to be, remember at the end they said, Sword and the Sorcerer 2 is coming. And then they, it didn't happen. It didn't happen immediately, let's say that. But I really love that movie, meeting Albert Pune and being able to spend time with him. He was incredibly gracious. It was super fun. And I did the DVD commentary for the Australian release with Albert, which was a blast. But check out Alan's review on Film Threat. So yeah. MK Solid 82 says Excalibur and Krull have aged on an epic scale. It's funny because I loved those fantasy movies as a kid. I would put Conan in that category. Conan, Excalibur, Krull, like those kind of fantasy, sword and sorcery epics were incredible. And the Sword and the Sorcerer. And you look back on them and they were great. Also, they weren't necessarily made. Excalibur was not made for kids. No. I mean, there's
nudity in it, and there's
nudity in it. Alan, is there nudity?
There is nudity. Clip that, people.
We're gonna definitely clip that. Yeah. But like even Krull is fun because it sort of mixes sort of space fantasy, right? There's this invading horde of aliens, right? And there's a wedding that's sort of Game of Thrones-ish. They have to have this wedding to unite these two kingdoms to battle this horde. All goes wrong. They meet a band of characters, sort of Seven Samurai like. And
that video game. And that video game was awesome.
Yeah. I want to get the glaive. Yeah. The glaive. I do like to collect, like I have the fertility idol from the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Not a hard thing to get you can find it. I actually bought a kit. So I have it as resin and I painted it myself and aged it. So it looks really good sitting on my shelf, but I would love to get the glaive. That's such a cool thing. It's so original. Not quite as cool as a lightsaber, but cool nonetheless. Robert Habe says, honestly, they made a D&D Guardians of the Galaxy for the normies, trying to salvage the brand. That is a great description of this movie. It definitely has that Guardians of the Galaxy kind of vibe where it's a bunch of characters that are likable. They all have their specific strengths. They don't quite get along, and they have a mission to undertake, and fun will be had along the way.
But I think what resonated more with Guardians of the Galaxy was that emphasis on family. And I think that the third one even dives deeper into this idea of these misfits who are not related being a family. And you kind of wanted a little bit of that in this movie where it just felt like, it's just a bunch of misfits who had weaknesses to overcome, and they did,
Eric Henson for 5. I had access to large outdoor areas and wooden swords. D&D never appealed to me because my friends and I could just go do this stuff. Eric, you and I would have been friends. Dude. I mean, look, I didn't mind staying indoors. I made a lot of Aurora model kits when I was a kid. I had newspaper routes and would go to the local hobby shop. I remember the smell of that lemon scented Tester's glue. You know what I'm talking about? I would do that, but I would also love to go out and just there was another hobby shop where you could race cars. They had this giant racetrack that filled a room, and you could just rent it and then just throw it on the track and go nuts. I love to go out and do stuff. What's weird is I'm exactly the same as then. I can't. That's why it's whenever you see I get invited to be on a lot of other YouTube shows, and if they're usually late at night, I can't do it because I'm always out doing something. So, but yeah, Eric, dude, wooden swords. I had a wooden sword. I had a wooden samurai sword. that I bought, and I loved it as a kid. It was great. You just go in the backyard and you're like smashing bushes and smashing stuff. It's very, very boy stuff to do. Sir Switch Crookington for 2. Can Alan keep saying mid as Pahuk for reviews? Alan, can you keep saying that?
Yeah, I can keep saying that.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. Cool. Anvek for 5. Chris, Alan, if you ever want a good example of D&D that's full of genuine laughs, chaos from the go, check out Goblins of Low on YouTube sometime. I will check that.
Hey,
Goblins of
since we're
Low.
plugging D&D stuff, my friends at my improv theater, Knights of the Rolled Table, it's on Apple Podcasts. Knights of the Rolled Table. You can kind of
What is
see
it?
it's just them playing D&D.
All right.
It's a podcast. It's a podcast. That's what these YouTube channels are. It's just people sitting around playing D&D.
Teague for 2 says, what video games are you playing? Twisted Metal? I am playing, I got the Sony PS5 VR2, and I've been playing, there's a Star Wars game on there that I'm playing that I think is very fun. There's a kayaking game. You asked me too. I'm playing the kayaking game on the PSVR2, and it's really good. I just got the Resident Evil game. I'm going to check that out this weekend. And then I just go back and forth, and I'll play like, I like to play like a game where I don't need to like spend, like I'll just play a shooter game. I like to play shooters. Okay. I'm into shooter games. And I'm talking about old school shooter games. Okay. So I'll play a shooter game, and then I've been playing, I'm going to replay Cyberpunk 2077 because I want to get a different ending. So I'm going to replay Cyberpunk. You asked, and so I'm telling you. So there you go. Wow, a lot of comments today. A lot of comments today, folks. But you asked me, Teague. I'm on the PS5. My username is, if you are interested in friending me on PlayStation, and I do still have a PS4 and a PS5, although I haven't turned on the PS4 since I got the PS5. At some point, I'll have to donate it to somebody. My username, I'm embarrassed to say this now. I'm embarrassed to say this, but it's gbone77. GBONE 77. That's me.
Wow.
Why are you laughing now that I've revealed this?
I know. You could have chosen a better number than 77.
Well, 100%. I could have done that. I will say we have tons of more comments. We're going to get to them. There are over 500 people watching us live. We just crossed the 70,000 mark. We passed 69,000. I know Alan was really happy when we crossed 69,000.
He joins us from Atlanta to discuss the charges, and we welcome you. How did all of this trouble begin?
The last time I was in San Francisco, I got to go to the Walt Disney Museum, and they talk about 69.
Well, let's talk about your tour. When are you leaving?
69.
And where are you going?
69.
We want to thank you for being with us today.
Yeah,
Oh, is there something more you want to say that we...
69.
Thanks for reminding us of that. Every once in a while, we forget. Good luck on your tour. Thanks for being with us. I guess we're going to hear lots more.
69.
All I'm saying is, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and slap that like button. Oh, wow. Back to your comments, folks. God, the chat is crazy right now. I mean this in a good way. It's not just like we have a lot of comments, and I want to get to all of them, and we do have other movies to talk about. So, but we don't have an interview subject. We did have the director of a movie called Acid Man, starring Thomas Hayden Church, which is out, I believe, today.
Yes.
He had to cancel at the last minute. We're going to try to reschedule him. It's a science fiction film about a guy obsessed with UFOs, and we were supposed to interview the director today. We had to reschedule last minute. And my apologies for that. So we're just talking movies today. It's just us. Ravenfire Phoenix says, I wasn't too much like the rules. I recognize the spells and monsters, but wild shape changes more than 3 in a day. Breath weapon more than 3. Yeah, look, I don't know what the rules are, but the one thing that did kind of like, I just said to myself, oh, come on, when they had those shells and they could communicate, like a team. Okay, we're going to separate, but we're going to communicate like a team. Here are these shells, but they only work for 1 hour. And I'm like, come on. They only work for 1 hour.
Yeah.
I
Or when she grabs the staff from Bradley Cooper, and it just happens to be
you're right.
the staff that happens to solve the problem at that moment.
The problem that needs to be solved is the thing that they find immediately. Subtle Deviancy for 5. Again, thank you, Subtle Deviancy. We chat on Twitter, the two of us, on occasion. In 1980, my school district ink blot tested myself and friends for saying we wanted the D&D electronic board game for Christmas, and we were playing D&D. Oh my God, that's funny.
Oh, I can tell you stories about me being told how demonic Dungeons and Dragon was. For example, I mean, even Kiss was demonic. Kids.
Oh no.
Yeah.
All this, it's weird. Like when I think back, like all the things that were considered evil or verboten in the 70s are, you would laugh now.
The Beatles were satanic.
Yeah. Look how evil these rock bands are.
And I actually went to one of those Satan and rock and roll seminars. And, oh my gosh.
Good
times.
John Manling, Highway to the I get it. Highway to the G-Bone Zone. G-Bone Zone. I know. I can't. First of all, I can barely talk right now. I'm drinking. I'm still a little under the weather. I'm still battling this cold. Don't ask me to sing. Alan, can you sing it?
No.
All right, well, there you go. But thank you, John Manalang, for that comment. John Mewald says the Kiss Marvel comic was said to be printed with human blood in it. Didn't they put like blood in the ink, right? They've done that. They did that with Stan Lee once in a comic.
Really?
They put some of his blood in the ink. Yeah. Derek Rosenfeld for 10. Pivot. Thanks to Chris, Allen, and the rest of the FT family for letting me be on your show Wednesday. I appreciate all the new views, comments, and likes on Pothole. You guys are the best.
Oh.
Cheers. Oh, that's right, Derek. Yes, I recognize that name. I'm like, oh yes, it's
Derek. You spoke to him 2 days ago.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Derek, for your support. We really appreciate it. We depend on support from the audience because we don't get like any corporate advertising like at all. Like, we're sort of like, okay, hope we're able to keep doing what we do. But God, that's why we appreciate it so much. But that's great. We do have we are going to mix it up with more indie filmmakers coming on the show. And we just launched also, just a quick reminder, we have a Film Threat Trailers channel where we post new movie trailers every day. We have a Film Threat Interviews channel. All of our interviews will be archived on that channel. So you'll see them live, and then we're just going to put them there. So check that out. Let's see. Oh, my God, the comments today. SSJ Siege for 2. Watch The Gamers, Darkness Rising, best D&D movie. Yes, I've heard of that. Gamers, Darkness Rising. Alan, did we review it?
I don't believe so. Doesn't sound familiar.
All right. More comments and questions on this movie. I'm glad a lot of you have seen it. So you can kind of at least verify that I'm not completely crazy for enjoying parts of the movie, but also walking away from it going like, that was fine. I mean, this is my whole thing is like, not every movie is going to be filet mignon from Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. It's not going to be and also these movies, they kind of get you by to the next like big tentpole movie. But it did exceed my expectations, and it was better than Ant-Man 3 or Shazam 2. There you go. Mega YouTube 99. The movie is technically better than Shazam 2, I'd say, but I had a lot more fun with Shazam. Fair point. That's fair point. I'm not gonna. It's sort of like sometimes arguing when you're getting like really into subtle, it's like, but I liked it better. It's like arguing about flavors of ice cream. Well, I prefer Blue Moon over Superman. Those are actual flavors of ice cream, by the way, which was the double scoop I would always get when I went to Baskin Robbins as a kid in Michigan. I would always get Superman ice cream, which was basically this sort of mixed flavor. It was just sugar. And then Blue Moon, which was just blue. I have no idea what either of them tasted like, just sugar, but I loved those. That was my double scoop always at Baskin Robbins. John Mewald says, what is your takeaway? Like 100 XP. Makes sense. Unicycle Peon says, I'm just sick of weak men in all these types of movies. Why can't everyone be cool? I thought there were cool male characters in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, Simon is probably the emasculated one, the weak man, and he eventually has to man up, so to speak.
Yeah,
but
he does.
Chris Pine's character was fine.
By the end of the movie, he had to level up effectively, and I thought Chris Pine was fine. Yeah. Chris Pine ain't weak, says Raven Fire Phoenix. Wes Ray, was there a Jumanji element to it, or would that be a spoiler? No, there's no like a bunch of people sitting around playing D&D and then suddenly they're in the world. No, that doesn't happen. Airsoft 123. I loved Conan, but that being said, is the emasculated male lead thing true? Only if you're. It's sort of like this. I feel like with some of the stuff because I don't think that Dungeons and Dragons is a woke film, but if you really, really look.
Did we just lose you, Chris? Okay, so yeah, I think Chris dropped out for a second. Yeah, so yeah, is the emasculated male thing? Yeah, the problem is because Michelle Rodriguez is the muscle of the team. That when he stands next to her, he is obviously not as strong as her. I think that's the vibe you get. But when you realize that he's a bard, he has other skills other than brute strength. And I think, and he is also the leader of the team. He's the one who kind of formulates the plan. Yeah, so it is Chris who's gone. Yeah, he's the one who formulates the plan and executes it. The one who realizes that these are where all the strengths of my characters are, and then this is how we can solve it. So, yeah, just only in the fact that he's not the heavy of the team. I think that's why people are talking about it. Okay, let's see. Let's continue on with our the nerd far away. I like that there is no nudity. Unpopular opinion, but I just don't think it's necessary. Yeah, I mean that's certainly the conversation going on. It used to be, in order to make box office, this is especially back in the 80s, there had to be nudity. And there's a good documentary out that came out 2 months ago called Body Parts. We talked about it, but it's kind of the history of I wouldn't say nudity in Hollywood, but in terms of how nudity was gotten from the actresses in Hollywood. And, of course, it'll talk about Weinstein. It'll talk about a lot of times women being pressured into nudity. And then it kind of goes into the whole intimacy coordinator, which is also controversial. And, my personal feeling about these intimacy coordinators is that, I would much rather have nudity that was consensual and above board than one that was kind of shadily gotten. Well, if that's even a phrase. Bethel Games. The Sword and Sorcerer is not for family viewing. Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly my review of that film. I just remember, as much as I appreciate Albert Pune and his ability to create fantasy worlds, especially in the 80s and the 90s, they're not exactly the strongest films story-wise ever told. Alien in LA is just awful in a really fun way. It's so bad it's good. Matthew Atkinson. I actually liked the movie. I'm not hardcore into D&D, but it was fun and not particularly woke, like some of the comments from the Talking Heads implied. Yeah. Again, it's fun. I paid a lot of money to see the movie, and there is a point where it's like you really want, these big studio films, they need to be elevated somehow. This is Paramount behind this one. You compare it to Lord of the Rings, and this movie just falls far short of that. Okay, let's go to Pyramid Scheme. Let me check Chris's. Let's see. Keep reading comments. My internet went out. Need to reboot. Be back in 5. So the guy who complains about my internet. Okay. Pyramid Scheme. Did they emasculate the male characters as promised? No. I mean, Simon is the emasculated character, and again, we can kind of go in that later. Oh, we talked about it already. John Monkey. I was sort of shocked. I know 2 or 3 people that said it was a decent to good. I figure it would have sucked. Yeah. There's, other than being highly mediocre, which is kind of my feeling walking away, it wasn't an effectively bad movie. Not like Ant-Man. Lubitsch touched me. Pune was a legend. Alien from LA is wonderful trash. Yep. There you go. Absolutely agree. Yeah, I'm just you guys are catching up to me. Joseph Mayfield just watched Lord of the Rings. Yeah. In and Out is not mid. I would agree with that, especially if you consider McDonald's compared to In and Out. I was just reading an article about how In and Out, why they're not on the East Coast, and a lot of it has to do with food chain. Their feeling is all ingredients at In-N-Out have to be within 30 miles or 30 hours of driving, and so they're more highly concerned about the quality of the food and the look and where the food comes from. John Manilang, yeah, if it was good enough for my mind to escape for a couple hours, count me in. Not expecting for every movie to give me a lesson/cathartic experience. Yeah. But again, I think we need to expect more from the big studios. In-Out is mid. All right. Let's see. Jimmy Jams. Chris Pine was great. He's good leader and good comedic timing. Absolutely. Mega YouTube 99 says, my favorite sequence was probably when the shapeshifter chick kept shape-shifting in order to get away. Yeah, that was actually a good CG spotlight piece. All right. SR20 Shane. How can you call Michelle Rodriguez an actress if she only plays herself in movies? Yeah, ask Tom Cruise that. Sir Switch Crookington. Can't imagine a lot of those kids who play D&D from such young ages probably being good writers and creative nowadays because of the imagination aspect. Definitely, especially for, I would say, the Dungeon Master. That's your real storyteller. And that's why I think it was Dungeon Master is probably the harder role to play in Dungeons and Dragons. Brock Samsonite. Honor Among Thieves is made for kids. Yeah. I can tell you my kids' high school has a kind of an outing on Sunday for their D&D crew to go see the film. Patrick Lemire says, Excalibur is the best King Arthur movie. Can't argue that at the moment. I failed to think of anything better than that. Pat and Bang. Honestly, never thought I would be into D&D until last year I watched the animated show Vox Machina on Amazon. Changed my whole perspective of the game. Yeah, and I believe shows like that were the cause of Wizard of the Coast to kind of go mental and start this kind of licensing deal. Joe Manganiello, Brock Samsonite. Joe Manganiello runs a D&D channel where he plays with other celebrities. Yeah, I haven't seen the channel, but I have seen Joe Manganiello. I saw a video of the people who made his D&D table, the one made out of wood. I think he talked to even like Vince Vaughn and others who play with him. All right. John Mewald. The Kiss Marvel comic book was said to be printed in here. Okay, we got that one. Yep. MK Solid 82. We need surveillance footage of Alan fending off the homeless with a wooden sword. Yeah, that will go well, especially for me. From New Jersey. I was in a very Christian school from 2nd to 5th grade, and we had an hour class every Wednesday about how Satan invented rock and roll to corrupt us. My classmates didn't have a TV in their home. Yeah. I have stories. Let's see. Chris is not back. Subtle Deviancy. Did someone place a cloak of displacement over Chris? I think they did it to his internet box. Hey Chris, maybe you should get on your phone, or let me. Yeah, I'm gonna put a link to this. Excuse me for a second. To where Chris can get it. Oh, here we go. Give me just one moment. Okay. Let's keep going here. Yeah, a lot of comments. I'm gonna go backwards here. Life of Bree, Bradley Cooper's cameo was gold. He's not listed in the IMDb either, but I was like, is that Bradley Cooper? Mickey D's blows in and out away, and that's not a compliment to McDonald's. Yeah, I don't think I can agree with that. I will say this: the In-N-Out combo, the hamburger cheeseburger combos, fries and a drink, still cheaper. Amazingly, it's cheaper than McDonald's. Okay, here we go. Chris, I'm in the chat but not in the show, which is weird. Yeah, how's that happening? Yeah, I put the link in River, so if you want to get to us on your phone. Oops. Yeah. Sorry, I gotta do that.
Power on.
Imperfect. Alas, there's no In-N-Out in Washington that I know of. Yeah, again, it has to do with distribution. You know, where are your cattle farms, where are your vegetables, and can they get it to those locations within 30 hours? Let me see. Oh yeah, let's talk about this. Wes Ray, watch the latest trailer for the Grease Pink Lady show on Paramount. I think that sets the bar for woke. Holy smokes. Yeah, I think you're onto something there. I saw a movie called Scrambled, and the writer and director of that show, she was working on a Grease prequel, and they canceled it at the last minute, and then Grease Pink Ladies came out, and I can tell you, she would have done great on that. Oops. Hey. Yeah, do we need to have a discussion about internet?
It's actually not internet. It's I need to uninstall Dropbox. It's in the background working on my computer.
Oh, yeah.
I hate programs.
That. So that's what I realized.
I don't use Dropbox. I can't stand it. It is the worst. I use Google Drive for everything.
Yeah, this is what I realized was my problem with the internet was if you know, everything in our house is backed up to the cloud, and if you have a video that you record and it's backing up, that's what throttles my upload speeds.
That's so I don't want to get into it. Let's get back to the comments. And so we can, and I apologize, people. I will get this. Wait, don't put that up there. Wait, did you go through all the comments?
I did.
Oh, that's
I'm kind of moving backwards here.
Okay, cool. But anyways, look, bottom line on it is it's fine. It's okay. Fine, not great. It's like, you know what it fits into? It fits into a category. It fits into a category I would call fun but forgettable. So
yeah, but we've talked about
fun but forgettable. Or good,
the big studios should not be. You expect more from the big studios, especially with the money you're paying to see it. You know, a $25 IMAX theater. You know, you expect more out of it.
Imperfect says Dropbox is evil. Kill it with fire. I was trying to delete Dropbox from my computer just so I could because it was just like it was obviously it was working in the background and not whatever. But yeah. And then Pink Ladies super woke, says Winter's Soldier.
Yeah, we talked briefly about Pink Ladies.
Okay, I saw the trailer for it. What about it?
Well, I mean, you kind of see where it's going, and maybe you could apply the weak label to it. I think you can with 100% certainty.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it was interesting because one of the films I saw at South by Southwest, Scrambled, Leah McKendrick wrote and directed, and she's a very strong writer. It was definitely a feminist film, but she brought a lot of nuance to it. She had been working for years on a prequel to Grease with Paramount, and they got very far in the process, and then they just dropped it. And then out comes Grease Pink Ladies. Because
Grease is a brand now.
Yeah.
Well, Grease is actually coming back to theaters through Fathom Events.
Yep.
So there you go.
Must be an anniversary.
My apologies to everyone again for my absence. The great thing we know, because I was watching on my phone, I was watching the show. I'm like, I could come back, but like this is going to be up in a second. And I liked Alan reading all the comments. It was kind of fun. Yeah. It's fun to see that. But yeah, I saw the trailer for it. It looks awful. I also saw the trailer for Dead Ringers. Did you see the trailer for that?
I haven't.
Yeah, it looks terrible. There was a teaser trailer. I'm like, okay, interesting. It's basically the Jeremy Irons Dead Ringers. It's a series based on the movie directed by David Cronenberg, and it looks terrible.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah, the Amazon put a trailer up before D&D. And apparently it's a group of girls who can summon lightning.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a bunch of other movies that we could review before we've got, we're going to be on for the next 30, 40 minutes talking to you. We've got a bunch of other films to review. It's Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves is not the only movie in theaters, but we can talk about 1001. Alan, you saw that.
Yes, I did. Yeah. 1001.
And then we're not going to get to Full River Red, and I would prefer to review that movie with you. I've seen it. I have some opinions about that, but I'd rather express them with you. So I'd like you to see that.
Yeah, and then I'll see it this weekend.
Full River Red. It's a Chinese film, and I have some thoughts about it because for the first half of the movie, I could not stand the movie. It was driving me crazy. And then my opinion changed. And I want to see if what you thought about it. Mike MC Wong had some thoughts in the chat too about that. But let's review. Let's get your take and review, and then we're going to get my review after that. I want to talk about Air.
Okay.
But let's talk about 1001. Alan, you saw 1001.
Yes. So this is a focus feature drama written and directed by A.V. Rockwell. It's a story of we'll get big. It's the story of Inez de la Paz, played by Tiana Taylor. So she's a woman, single mother who was just released from prison. Her son Terry is in foster care. While in foster care, Terry gets injured and winds up in the hospital. And it's at that point that Inez decides to kidnap him, flee to Brooklyn, and then just kind of hide out and raise her son on her own. And so she gets new papers, new social security cards, new identity for them, and they live this life. And a couple of years later, she meets a guy called Lucky, or she's known a guy Lucky. They kind of were in the wrong circles together, and they wind up getting married. And then Lucky kind of adopts Terry as his own, and then they become this family. So the way I would describe it, this is the life of Terry from about 6 years old all the way up until he's 18. And it's a story about this highly dysfunctional family. Inez has been hardened by her life so much that she she demands so much from the men in her life, from Lucky and from Terry. And Terry is just kind of figuring out his life on his own. But he is so overwhelmed by his controlling mother that he there are times where he just kind of resists it. And then things just kind of go from bad to worse for the family. At one point, the building she lives in has been bought and is in process of gentrification. So the new owner comes into the apartment and says, "Oh, what can we fix? What, there are things we can do." They basically destroy her bathroom and her kitchen, and says, "Well, there's no budget to fix it. Maybe you should move out for a couple months." And you can kind of see there's a scam going on here. But this movie really is about that relationship between Terry and the mother, and it's kind of this idea of this is a very loving family, but they're very dysfunctional. And then also in the background, there's this specter that Terry was kidnapped when he was a kid from the foster care system by his mother, and they're living with that kind of specter hanging over it. This is another one where it's not for everybody. I mean, I found it fascinating in the sense of I like movies about people, about the human condition, and and we're pushing people to their limits and to see where they end up in the end. And this is one of those movies. The most fascinating thing about this movie is you think it's woke, but it's not. And I'll say it this way. Everything bad that happens to Terry and to Inez, it wasn't caused by white people. It was caused by the decisions they made and the needs, the decisions she made back in the past from her being in prison to the point of her kidnapping her son. Everything that happens to them is kind of brought upon by these decisions. It is set in the backdrop of like 90s, 2000s New York. And so, this is the time where Giuliani's stop and frisk was a big thing. They mention it, but it's really not a part of the story. So again, this is just really a story about this dysfunctional family dynamic, and very much a drama. And if any of this, I would always say, if any of this sounds interesting to you, you might want to give it a shot. I have mixed feelings about the ending. And so that's why I give it, I'm not sure I can necessarily recommend it, but it's really walking that line because I do like this interaction between this family because it's something I haven't seen in a long time. And again, it's no fault of white people.
Well, that's refreshing to hear, Alan. This movie I know was at Sundance. Do we already have a review of it on the website?
No. If it was at Sundance, I wonder if we do.
If it was at Sundance, that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
but,
let me check.
It looks like also a movie that could be Oscar worthy. It's one of those like we don't have a review.
No, I don't think it's Oscar worthy.
Oh, you don't think so? Okay.
We do have a review, in fact.
Okay. Can you put it up on screen? Let's go to some of your comments. Some of your comments here. Sir Switch Crookington says, if it's not Wakanda, it's always single mothers and crime when it comes to Black movies.
Yeah, I think, but again, I think the movies I've seen like that, it's always been, white oppression.
1001 review here. See, our moderators in the chat are way ahead of you, Alan. Thank you to Ms. P.
Yeah, how's your internet working, Chris?
Thank you to Ms. P. Coffee. Thank you, Ms. P. Coffee. We may be Ms. P. Coffee and I may have been chatting on via email. So thank you, Ms. P. Coffee.
Yeah, Hannah gave it an 8. She liked it much more than I did.
Yeah, Sir Switch Crookington says, "Why can't we have a Black movie with intact families?"
Yeah, and I think this is the point of that movie. Here's a mother who wanted her family back, and then there's Lucky, who is not Terry's father, who wanted to change his life and be a father to him.
Yeah. Manny Lamont says Crooklyn 2 Electric Boogaloo. He goes on to say, sounds like something on BET late night movie. And Lord Thoth says,
I love the soundtrack to this one though.
Lord Thoth says,
yeah.
Well, there you are.
It's not for everybody.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I think you can tell by this trailer if it's a movie that would be for you.
Yeah.
Some other quick comments here. Real quick. Let's get to these comments. Sir Switch Crookington. He already. Sorry, I already said that. The Nerd Far Away. I think it's funny millennials love Grease 2 so much. It was such an totally 80s movie. Patrick Lemire. Will I feel seen in Full River Red? Are you Chinese? Then you will feel seen. I really want to talk about this film. It's a 3-hour Chinese epic.
Oh.
I'm glad I saw it in a theater because it's not a movie I want
to see it in the theater. It's at AMC right now.
It's at AMC. You could see it. I can't talk about this film without having a discussion with someone. Mm-hmm. I really want to, so there you go. Mike MC Wong, you need to know about the actual poem Full River Red. And you need to know about the history of this poem and why it's so important. And when you watch this movie, I can't wait to talk to you about it, Alan. Mm-hmm. So there you go. Subtle Deviancy says, after watching Grease back in the day, my classmates and I got in severe trouble for replicating the Blue Moon scene at school. That's funny. There you go. There you go. Beerosaurus Rex says, Rotten Tomatoes says, a tribute to parental devotion and a testament to Tiana Taylor's talent. 1001 presents a heart-wrenching portrait of perseverance in the face of systemic inequity. Of course, the reviewer brings up that, but the film doesn't really delve into that.
I mean, it takes place in New York in the 90s, early 2000s. That's the way it was. I mean, that's the setting. And so,
well, all right. Let's pivot here for a second. Really quickly. I want to talk about Air. Air is currently playing in limited release. And by that, I mean, they're doing special screenings of this movie. It opens in a couple of weeks, but there's actually tomorrow on Saturday, April 1st, not an April Fool's joke. It is playing at 7 p.m. at AMC's across the U.S. So check it out because this is one of the best films I've seen this year. It is the story of the behind the scenes of a guy named Sonny who works at Nike, a struggling shoe company in 1984, just trying to get a piece of the market. At the time, Adidas was the #1 shoe company. And then next to Adidas was Converse. And then there was tiny little Nike with 14% of the market. Sonny, played by Matt Damon, who's obsessed with basketball, always scouting like who is going to be the next big thing in the sport, in the NBA. And he finds this kid named Michael Jordan. This kid, just a kid, who's about to enter the NBA and begin his career as a Chicago Bull. And Sonny fights relentlessly within the company Nike that not only do we have to sign Michael Jordan, whatever it takes, we have to bet all of our money, our entire budget, our entire marketing budget for the NBA has to go to one player. Ben Affleck plays Philip Knight, who is the head of the company. He does a really good. I've seen like some documentaries where Phil Knight was in the. He does this great take on Phil Knight, who he either wears shoes or he doesn't wear shoes. He was barefoot quite a bit. He has this kind of curly hair, wearing a suit, sort of casual. Viola Davis plays Michael Jordan's mother. Chris Tucker is a colleague who works with Matt Damon's character. He plays a guy named Howard, who is Chris Tucker is so good in this film. I mean, Chris Tucker's always sort of fun and entertaining, and he just knocks it out of the park in a supporting role. And Jason Bateman rounds out the cast as another colleague of Matt Damon's character, Sonny, plays a guy named Rob. This cast is incredible. Who would think that a story about the making of a shoe would be so compelling you end up meeting other characters, including there's a character, this guy, I forget, you've seen this actor before, and I'm spacing on his name at the moment. He's the guy, his goal in life was to design the perfect shoe, the Air Jordan. But at its heart, while this film is totally a nostalgia movie, it's set in 1984, the soundtrack is fantastic. It was seeing this movie was like, not an exaggeration. It was like a breath of fresh air, in the sense that, oh, this is a real movie. It's about something. You get to know these characters. Sonny is fighting. He's fighting so hard for this thing. He wants to basically bet the entire company on this kid who hasn't proven himself. He hasn't stepped one foot on a court to play an NBA game yet, but he wants to bet everything on him and everything that went into this shoe. But as you're watching the movie, it's not about the circumstantial things that we're seeing. It's not about all this sort of, nonsense. It's about heart. It's about fighting for something you believe in. And the other thing that stood out to me about this movie, which is why the audience I saw it with, laughed. There were applause breaks. It's funny, but it's also real. It's incredibly well directed by Ben Affleck, who did Argo, which was nominated for an Oscar. He does it in kind of this real indie film way, where a lot of directors will do this thing where they try to call attention to myself. Like, I'm the director. I'm directing this movie. See me moving the camera around in an annoying way. He doesn't do any of that. He kind of holds back. You get to know these characters. You see them sort of live in their daily lives and just trying to fight and struggle for something that matters. And what stood out to me most about this film, what makes it such a breath of fresh air, is that it is filled with something that almost no movie today has. And it's optimism, positivity, hopefulness. This entire company rallies around this kid because they believe in something. Because Michael Jordan's mother believed in her son. You want to see, we were talking about 1001 earlier. You want to see an intact Black family? Michael Jordan's family and his relationship with his mother and father. So well portrayed in this film. Although they do this kind of trick where they don't actually really show you Michael all that much. He's kind of in the shadows. But the way they also kind of get you into the film is with this use of the music, videos, commercials, the level of detail. Matt Damon does his grocery shopping in basically a 7-Eleven, where he kind of gets to know the guy behind the counter. Everything that's in the background in that 7-Eleven is from 1984. This movie, it's so moving. It's so heartfelt. I don't want to ruin anything about it. You know the basic story if you've seen the trailer. If you haven't seen the trailer, don't watch the trailer. Just go see this movie. And it's weird that I'm going to say this. Along with John Wick 4, Air is one of my favorite films this year. I can't say best film yet, in the best category or among the best films of the year. We're at the beginning of the year. We're still in March, technically. But this movie is opening. It's from Amazon Studios. It's opening, I believe, in the next couple of weeks. It might be next week, but it's
April 5th. Yeah, next week.
Next week, its Air is opening. But if you have an opportunity to see it in a theater this weekend, please do. One of my favorite films this year. I mean, I also personally, I'm biased. I love sports movies. They're win or lose. But the passion with which this was directed. And I'm watching this movie going, oh, now I know why Ben Affleck walked away from DC. He wanted to make movies like this. He wanted to make movies where the stakes matter. And the thing about this film is so well done. And similar with Argo, when you base a movie on a historical event, you already know the outcome. How do you make it feel like it matters? I'm on the edge of my seat watching this film. On the edge of my seat, and I already know what happens. And it also mixes some reality in it. Please don't leave as the credits are rolling. There's stuff within the credits that you need to see that I don't want to ruin a thing, but there's sort of a mix of reality and it just reminded me of that era. It reminded me of that era of the 80s and 90s when we may have been a bit more positive and hopeful. We may have been less divided as a culture, because who is not a fan of Michael Jordan? Whether you're a fan of the Chicago Bulls, I get it. Okay. You may not be a fan of the Chicago Bulls. For me, it was, I love the Detroit Pistons, the Bad Boys, that era. Okay. That was me. I rooted for the Pistons, but I admired the Chicago Bulls, and certainly Michael Jordan and his career and how he conducted himself as a player, as a person, as a man, as a symbol, as a champion. And who do we have like that today? Who do we have like that today? Some of the biggest players in the NBA out themselves as they are divisive. You know, and it saddens me to say someone like he calls himself King James, not a fan of this person on the LA Lakers, not a fan. He could have taken a cue from how Michael Jordan conducted himself. And you're going to learn. There's a lot of things. Look, you may know the basic story. You don't know the story. I love this film. I can't recommend it enough. And this movie has nothing. There's no comparison with John Wick. It is a completely different movie. I'm just saying what made me realize I'm watching this film that Ben Affleck, he's in it. He's not the lead character. He is, Matt Damon's the lead character in this, and Matt Damon's kind of the schlubby. He's kind of got a gut. He's not really in shape. He doesn't even wear athletic shoes. But my God, it's back to the movies. I mean, I think Ben Affleck even said something about I want to get back to the movies we used to make, like Good Will Hunting, movies that really moved you, movies that didn't cost $100 million and there's superheroes and capes and all this. Like you're going to see this movie and go, oh, this is why Ben Affleck walked away from DC. This is why Ben Affleck was like, yeah, can you imagine if Ben Affleck with this kind of approach made a Batman movie? It would have been great. Had they let Ben Affleck make the Batman movie he would have wanted to make, it would have been awesome. It would have been like The French Connection or a great crime film from the 70s. Because you can see Ben Affleck is completely like influenced by indie film and movies from the 70s. It has all of that. So I loved Air. I can't recommend it enough. One of my favorite films this year. Alan, I'd love to hear your take on it. I know that you did not get an opportunity to see it, but hopefully you can catch it next week, and we'll talk about it next Friday. We'll do a dual review next Friday, but I can't wait for you all to see it. And Viola Davis, great. She's always good. She's always good. And God, just everything about this movie, I just loved. So I don't know if there are comments about Air, but I'd love to hear.
Yeah, there's some. A lot of it is just about the nature of the NBA today. You talked about Sir James.
Yeah.
So Lubitch Touch Me says, Air, another biopic. I gotta say it right. Biopic. I can skip.
Don't skip this. It's not a biopic. It's not a biopic. It's not a Michael Jordan movie.
Yeah.
It's about this character, Sonny, played by Matt Damon, who is passionate for basketball. And it's about a historical event. It is a sports event, but it influenced pop culture. The Air Jordans are one of the most popular shoes of all time. It's about how the culture changed. And I love it. Lubitch Touch Me. Just go see it. Just go see it.
Yeah. So I haven't seen Chris Tucker in anything lately. How is Chris Tucker?
The Nerd Far Away. I like Chris Tucker. Oh my God. He just, from his opening scene, is great. Winter Soldier, NHK had a doc series a few years ago about Nike that included the story. Air is inspired by the true story. That is true. MK Solid 82. Well, of course, two white guys invented the Air Jordans.
Was it Al Madrigal? Is that who you're talking about? Or was it Jay Moore?
No, that's not the person I'm talking about. It's not the actor I'm talking about.
Okay, then I don't know who that would be.
All right. It's all right, man.
Right.
Not just about the shoe. It's also about MJ. It's not. It's not. Michael Jordan is a big part of it, but the movie focuses on them trying to get the deal. It also felt very influenced by, in a good way, Jerry Maguire. Now, you can make fun of Jerry Maguire all you want. I happen to really like that film. I think it is about optimism. It's about integrity. It's about having a mission statement. And having a mission statement in life is about having a purpose. Why are we here? Why are we doing the things that we do? What's important? It's also about having purpose. So I'm watching this film and I'm like, why does this movie stand out amongst all of the dire, oh, this movie's so dark. This movie, I'm tired of dark. We're over dark. We live in dystopian dark. Things currently happening on the planet, whether it be wars overseas or financial collapse or the way people treat each other, are constantly divisive. America spiraling into that. I'm over it. Stop it. We need more movies like this that are positive, that show you what's possible when people can work toward a common goal and a common purpose. That's the message of all sports. We all come from different backgrounds. We look different. We all are coming. We have a common goal. We're going to win the game. We're going to win the game. That's why I love sports movies. Common goal. We're all very different. We come together. Next week, please do yourself a favor. Go see it. Next week, we'll talk on Friday about this. Alan will have seen it. I want to hear what you think. Because they did special screenings and the screening was packed. I think it was smart for them. They're doing this like single screening. You got to go see it. And,
yeah. And it's also Amazon. They could have easily just pushed it to streaming. And so I think it's important that if you're interested in the movie, just go to the theater and see it.
Yeah, the movie was just refreshing because so many movies are dark. Ant-Man 3 Quantum Mania was dark.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm tired of it. I'm over dystopian. We are living in dystopian. Please do the opposite. Go into the theater to be inspired, that we can be better as a people, that we can treat each other better. Not just in real life, but on the internet, we can treat each other better. We can get beyond this divisiveness. There are too many voices out there saying, like, "Oh, are we in we're going towards civil war in America?" No, if we will it, and the more times you say it, sure, maybe something like that could occur. I disagree. I think there are more good people than there are bad people. And
it reminds me of that interview with Morgan Freeman. If we still want to talk about a good person, but Morgan Freeman, they asked him, "How do you end racism?" And he basically just said, "Stop talking about it.
Stop talking about it.
Stop bringing
talking about it." Yeah, Aaron Burleson for 5. The Jordans are a pretty incredible family. Michael's brother was my sergeant major at Fort Bragg. Oh, wow, Aaron, that's great. Cool. No, yes, what you learn about the family, it just made me want to learn more. But that's great. Congratulations, Aaron. And thank you for your service, by the way. Gabriel Quiroga for 5. I love these movies that show well-known brands before they were big. Matt Damon did great in Ford versus Ferrari, and I got the same vibes from this movie. Yeah. Holy War says, Matt Damon. Yeah, Team America. Team America is great. I love that movie. It's a great comedy.
Poor Matt.
No, it was great. I get the sense that Matt Damon has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
That whole rivalry between him and Jimmy Kimmel. I am not a fan of Jimmy Kimmel, by the way. I think he's become a horrible person. He's another person that has leaned into dividing the country. If you are vilifying fellow Americans, you are dividing the country. You are not justified in doing this. You do not win hearts and minds by telling people they are terrible for thinking certain ways or having certain views or practicing certain religions. This is, I'm tired of it. Tired of that. And I do not support anyone with who seeks to divide this country. That is evil. in my opinion. I won't support those people. Wes, that movie looks great, especially if you lived through the time and remember how popular Air Jordans were. I'm always ready for an 80s period piece too, but an 80s period piece that isn't about ephemera. It really, the songs that they chose weren't the top number one pop songs. There's like some big songs, but there's like the film is filled with so much music, but it's not like the obvious ones, right? And it doesn't just focus on like, look how dumb that haircut was. Like that's what a lot of like pop culture that's like it'll like lean into something like, look how stupid those fashions were or how dumb those people were with that whatever. Like there is a funny scene where Matt Damon makes a phone call and he's on a phone, but it's like one of those chunky ones in the car.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's like, well, you know, I don't know. I thought that was cool. Yeah. Toby Pegram. I'm sorry, Toby Pegram. Glad to hear the positive comments for Air. Affleck is very consistent director. I'm also always down for anything Jordan. True superstar. Brock Samsonite, just another way to inflate the price of Air Jordans. Says Brock.
You nailed it. It's a promotional ploy.
Hey, if you own an original pair of Air Jordans that are unworn, oh my God. Solomon Thornton says, Michael Jordan's relationship with his parents is just like mine. We are close. That's really great to hear. That's great to hear. John Manilang, yep, Affleck's got some directing chops, 100%. 100%. Is Phil Knight treated better in Air than he was in HBO's Showtime? Says Winter Soldier. He is, you see, he's the thing about Philip Knight and the way that Ben Affleck portrays him, he's conflicted. He's not like you kind of see the position he's in. He's like his company like is the number 3. He's not big in the marketplace. He now went public, so he's got a board. So you see that he's like, not to say that he's not an asshole, but he's like he's a relatable and understandable asshole in the sense that it's like you see what he's struggling with. You see what Philip Knight's character is, you know, what he has to weigh. You know, he's got all this here. He's got all this here. He's got Sonny, this ambitious, you know, guy who just like, we got to bet the farm on this kid. We got to bet the farm on this kid. Derek Rosenfeld asks, what is your favorite sports movie? First of all, tough question to answer. I'll give you like a top 3. Breaking Away, which is a movie about cycling, kids. It's a rival college and it's kind of the towny kids and entering a cycling competition. I love the original Bad News Bears with Walter Matthau and the first Rocky. But there are, I mean, we could do a whole podcast.
I would only add Hoosiers to your list.
Yeah. Hoosiers, there are so many good ones. Champions, I'm not going to say it's the best of all time or best sports movie, but Champions, which I recently saw, I really enjoyed that film. You heard my positive review of Champions, which is still playing. I do recommend Champions, but Air, one of my favorite films of this year. I refrain from saying best films, but favorite.
I know, because we got John Wick 4 right there.
Yeah. Meza Morta for £5. Thank you, Meza. I love you guys' passion. Keep ducking and diving, bobbing and weaving. Well, there you go. And we're going to leave it at that. Oh, people are now talking. Oh, Major League, Field of Dreams.
Slapshot.
Slapshot. Oh, I love Slapshot.
Bull Durham is another classic.
Bull Durham. So many great Field of Dreams is awesome. Not just that, go rewatch Field of Dreams. There's a whole thread about censorship and people. Basketball is the good dog catcher. I'm catching them. They're going by quick here. Any given Sunday, Major League, says General Spart. Field of Dreams, so good, says Imperfect. Mike MC Wong, Rocky, yeah. Caddyshack, JPG 516.
That's a sports movie.
Caddyshack, look, if they're playing sports in the movie, it's a sports movie.
I don't know why
The Natural.
What you were doing, you could call sports.
The Natural. Caddyshack 2. Bring it on, kicking and screaming. I mean, Air, you can put in the sports movie category. It's not a sports movie in the sense that they don't play a sport. There's not a game in the movie to be won, but there is a goal. There is a goal that in mind. And the wrestler, the Goon. Oh, I love the Goon, Mike MC Wong. Goon, a hockey movie. Space Jam, the original Space Jam. The original Space Jam.
Sports movies, yes.
Yeah. We should continue. For those of you that are members, and I want to thank you to all the members of our channel. Thank you to the members. There's a Discord. Let's continue the conversation of sports movies in the Discord. Continue. So if you are a member of our channel, just join. You get access to our Discord. Also, you'll get special. Alan, at some point, Alan is going to paint. When are you painting, Alan?
We're gonna do it soon. The biggest thing, there used to be this black tarp over here covering a gaudy costume closet. We have finally dismantled that and got rid of it. The shelves will be the last thing to go before we paint, but we're on track. Hopefully next weekend we'll be able to actually start painting.
Are you gonna film some of it? You're gonna do a live stream
only? I'm gonna try to.
Only okay.
Because I gotta set up the whole live stream situation in a room that I'm painting.
Moneyball. There's Moneyball aspects. I should have mentioned there are Moneyball aspects of this movie. A little bit of Moneyball, a little bit of Jerry Maguire, a little bit of sort of like all the stuff that surrounds, sports agents. The guy who plays, all the performances are great in here. They're all characters, right? The actor who plays, I gotta find the actor who plays Michael Jordan's manager is so good. He is such an asshole. He's such a jerk. Oh my God, he's awful. Chris Messina plays David. Chris Messina plays Michael Jordan's manager. He's such a jerk. You just hate this guy. Such a jerk. Jay Moore bit part in the film, but it's just you get Jerry Maguire vibes out of it, a little bit of Moneyball also, but wow, this movie, I love inspirational stories. I love them. North Dallas 40, Against All Odds. Oh my God, chat's on fire with this. But a couple more comments and we're going to wrap it up for today. Toby Pegram became a YouTube member. Hey, chat with you on the Discord. Going to be fun. Planet Killer. Damn, Chris, this is why you are the best. When you answered which was your favorite sports movie, I asked myself, no way he mentions Breaking Away, no way, and you did it. That indeed is the best. It's one of those that I probably saw that movie 7 times, 10 times in a theater when I was a kid. I lived walking distance to a movie theater when I was a kid. Grew up in Royal Oak, Michigan. There was a theater in Berkeley, the Berkeley Theater. It was the dollar theater. You could see a movie there for $1. It was the second run theater. So a movie would play first run, then it would go second run, and it would play there for months. I saw Star Wars there a ton. Yeah. Breaking Away played there. I would just go to see it. I saw Jaws there, and I love that movie theater. It's a drugstore now.
Yeah, I'll say this: Breaking Away, Bad News Bears, movies I've seen over and over and over and over again. I cannot get enough of both movies.
And you know what? And I'm going to talk to my mom about this weekend. She always encouraged me to see those movies that basically went a deeper layer, right? Like movies like Breaking Away or foreign films or whatnot. My mom was always like, don't go to those mall movies, right? Don't go to those. It's probably why I just really didn't like John Hughes movies growing up, because I thought that the representations of high school kids in John Hughes movies, I thought were annoying to me, because I could not relate to those kids because they were all kind of like rich kids. They were just kids I couldn't relate to. But
I can relate to Long Duck Dong though.
Right. When the Gong came out, I thought it was so dumb. Like, whatever, it's
again, I've mentioned before, to see an Asian in your movie is just like gold. And so when Long Duck Dong came out, it's like, yes, we've made it.
Yeah,
we've made it.
And it's sort of like, they sort of lean into the stereotype. And a little bit. I had an Asian friend in high school, and it just sort of, I'm like, I wonder how he feels like about that. It's weird. But also I grew up watching a lot of Asian Toho monster movies, and among other, we've talked about that. Like I've seen
the
so
karate
many
films and the kung fu films.
Yeah, exactly. But well, there you go. Anyways, hey, I want to thank everybody for watching. We're going to be wrapping it up. We're wrapping it up. I want to thank you, especially our members. Alan is going to do he's going to do a painting stream just for members. So Alan, you can set that up, right?
Yeah.
Alan paints.
Yeah. And I will one day do a Jackbox for members. So hopefully during the spring break this next week.
Yeah. And then and I want to thank you for watching. We're growing more and more. Get like 500 people watching us live for the most part, and hopefully that will continue to grow. We passed 70,000, and it's all due to you, and I appreciate that. So thank you so much for that. We will be back next week on Wednesday. We're going to be talking about Super Mario. Alan and I will have seen it. We're going to talk about, both of us will be doing a review of Super Mario. I am a little concerned. I have concerns about Super Mario. Can I tell you why? They're screening it very late.
Yes. In fact, we'll be seeing it the day after the review embargo lifts.
Yeah. Which doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. No, I'm actually seeing it on Monday night. Yeah, I'm seeing it Monday night. I can't bring a guest. It's just me.
Okay. I'm seeing it Tuesday.
Well, we'll talk about it Wednesday.
Yes.
We'll talk about it Wednesday. But
and if you're in San Diego tomorrow night, I will be at the National Comedy Theater doing our show. So stop on
National Comedy Theater. And you've heard me talk about Attack of the Doc. Go to thefreedacinema.org to get tickets, or the movie will be on Vimeo. It will be on Vimeo on it'll be on Vimeo on April 24th. That's it for us today. Again, I just love hanging out on a Friday morning, even though I'm still sick. I'm still pretty sick, but we'll be back next week. Alan, what do you got to say?
Let's get out of here.